Please come to order for this workshop meeting of the Bridgton Planning Board. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There is a resident cricket. Okey-dokey. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 16th, 2026. I'd make a motion to approve them with one change.
The date.
Oh, the date, yep, the 26th.
Yep, 26. The second to the last paragraph, it says prior to site plan review, should just be prior to subdivision review. You see that, Ashley? Second to the last paragraph. And it says prior to site.
Site.
Yeah, just subdivision review. With that change, I accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Moved by Angie, seconded by Maggie. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you very much, 5-0. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the GP-COG update on our ordinance changes. We have quite a bit of materials, so Shannon, who has graciously driven all the way up from Biddeford to be here with us, thank you very much. She's prepared all this information, and you'll find brand new in your OneDrive is a presentation, just kind of an overview that she'll walk us through, and then she'll get into the meat of some things. I'm going to ask that, well, not that there's a lot of you, but I'm going to ask that we have the board only in this discussion, at least for a while, so that we can focus on the topic at hand. And then we will get into subdivision, which shouldn't take too long. Mm-hmm. So unless there's any questions, I'll give the floor to Shannon. Okay?
All right. Happy to be back. So Ashley has my presentation. She's going to pull it up behind me. And then the presentation, I kept it short and very simple, mostly because we have so much material that's in front of you that I want to focus on your questions more than anything else. But this will give us a good overview of, what I'm prepared to talk about, what I've done, and what the next steps for the project will be. So, Ashley, can you go to the next page? Okay, so our agenda for tonight is we are going to briefly go over my compliance analysis of Bridgton's land use ordinance. So that is Appendix A. So it was kind of the jumping off point for all of this work. It's very long, probably about 9 pages, but it's intentionally thorough so that I made sure that we didn't miss anything that was required by state statute. So after we go over that, we'll go over the memo, which would have loved to have kept it to a one-pager, but unfortunately there's quite a bit to discuss. It's about 4 pages, and it discusses both actions that you are required to take to come into compliance with state law and actions that you might want to consider taking for various reasons. And we'll go through each one if that's what you guys would like to do, to discuss the merits of whether to act or whether not to. And then lastly, we're going to discuss next steps for the project. As you can see from your packet, there are no visuals in it. So me and Ashley and Deb discussed how much material there was to go through tonight, and I requested that maybe we should split this into 2 workshops in order to give, enough time for each section. So today we're really just focusing on the text changes, and then the next workshop will be more focused on the visuals and mitigation strategy that we discussed the last time I was here.
Yep. And, if we can get further than that in terms of these documents, that's great too.
Yes, absolutely.
If we have, but I think it's wise to not necessarily count on that, so.
Okay, perfect. So Appendix A. So one of the things that I started off this project with was Appendix A, which was a compliance analysis of how Bridgton's land use ordinance either meets or doesn't meet the requirements of both LD 1829 and LD 2173. The other thing that this compliance review allowed me to do was clarify what had changed between LD 1829 and LD 2173. So that was really important just for, my background research. As you go through the Appendix A, it's broken down into different sections about ADU requirements, about density changes, about childcare uses, and how those standards have changed. So they're broken down in that way, and there's a column that basically takes the statute and restates it in plain language, so it's more understandable. Because not all of us have a lawyer's degree. I know I don't, and I'm happy for that. And then the very last column is whether, Bridgton needs to take action or whether they don't. And under the sections where I was like, you are going to have to act, I have suggested, how could you meet this requirement in the simplest way possible? So that's what that big document is. Feel free to read through it at another time. I have basically taken all of the items that require action and I've put them directly in the memo. But I wanted you to see that, a lot of your ordinance already meets the requirements from the state. So it's not going to be a complete overhaul or a complete rewrite of the ordinance. It's just tweaking here and there to meet some of the additional items that they've added through these laws. Okay, and so through my compliance analysis, I determined that there were really only 3 chapters that required updates under these laws. The first one being Chapter 3, mostly because of the schedule of uses, needing to add some to the schedule of uses, and then also the dimensional standards. So, but I'm sure you guys were very aware that those changes were coming. I also, as I was reviewing your ordinance, noticed that Chapter 5, Site Plan, needs a small edit. So the site plan section of your land use ordinance is where you discuss, like the density bonuses for affordable housing. Now, under LD 2173, there is a height density bonus. So it makes the most sense for that information to be with the residential density bonus. And then lastly, which I think is probably the easiest changes, is there are just some new definitions that the state has created. And at the end of the day, adding these definitions to your own ordinance just helps you, like, if there's any sort of question of like, what does this mean? Instead of a developer or a member of the public having to go to the state statute, they can just look at your Chapter 9. So it just makes it easier for people to understand what's expected of them. All right.
So Shannon, just to check, so
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going to kind of briefly do this, but then we'll go into detail on the memo version?
Yes,
Okay.
that was my big plan. So it's
Okay.
mostly because I wasn't sure how many people from the public were going to be here. So I
Okay.
wanted to give them a small taste of what we're going to get into.
Yep.
And then I'm pretty much going to turn it over to this group and be like, all right, what kind of questions do you have for me?
Great.
Do you just want to go
Great.
line by line? I'll leave it up to you guys.
Okay. I suspect we'll dive in, because I think we're going to have the time.
Okay, perfect. And then I created this optional changes that you can do, but is definitely, all of these are not mandatory by the state law. It might just end up being helpful and may help to simplify your ordinance or answer any sort of gray areas that come along. So those things are, right now, some of your sections are actually more permissive than what LD 2173 requires. So an example, your ADU definition says that a accessory dwelling unit can be built on a lot with a single-family house, a two-family house, or a multifamily building. The LD 2173 has clarified that an ADU can only be built on a single-family house, a duplex, or a triplex. That's what's required by the law. If you guys want to continue to allow ADUs to be on the same lot as like a 5-unit apartment building, that's completely fine. It's a policy decision that you need to make rather than the state is forcing.
It's more lenient.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, your definition of ADU is more lenient than the state statute, which is allowed. It's just you as a board and whoever else is a part of changing ordinances needs to decide of whether you want to keep it that way or not.
We just can't be more restrictive.
Exactly.
Right.
The whole thing about the law is you can't be more restrictive, but you can be more lenient. So all of the optional ones are policy decisions that I just want to bring to your attention. But I won't go in depth with them right now. We can do
We'll
that
definitely
later.
come back to those.
Okay. And so I briefly went over this earlier, but the whole goal of tonight is to discuss the required updates and the proposed approaches to implementing them, review the optional updates and decide what you would like to do with those. And then, seeing as we're hoping to have another workshop, I'd like to know which 3 zoning districts the board would like me to focus on for producing visuals for the next workshop. Because you have many, many different zones that are actually contained within your growth area, and some might be more important than others for you to see how development underneath these new laws would impact those areas. And so instead of me deciding which ones you'll see, I would just like you guys to let me know what you would like to see most.
Okay,
And then that's it.
all right. So next we're going to the,
We can
next
go.
we're going to the memo?
Yes.
Is that right? So into the detail?
Yes.
Which is essentially the corollary to this compliance analysis is, these are the items that are required, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the memo is broken up into a couple of different sections, the most important being the required actions and the potential actions. So required actions start at the bottom of page 1 and take up all of page 2, and then potential actions are
Yeah.
on page 3.
Okay, great.
Page 4 is basically just for your information of like which references that I use to pull all of this information together. So it's like a mini bibliography.
Everybody with us? Jump in if you have suggestions. Okay, go ahead, Jen.
All right. Do you want to go line by line through the required
I'd
actions?
say go line by line, yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to scooch this down for a second. The first requirement is LD 2173 provides a definition for what is considered a public sewer system. There was a lot of people weren't sure, if something had to be run by municipality, if it could be a special district. There was a lot of confusion on what they meant by public sewer system under 1824. So they have now defined it. And my suggestion to the board is to just add the definition of public sewer system to section 9-3 of the land use ordinance. Just so you already reference public sewer system in several different sections of your ordinance. And so if anyone is curious of what that actually means, they can go to this definition within your own ordinance to clarify for themselves.
So I guess one decision we have right here is, do the law remove the allowance for a comparable sewer system?
So, do you want me to get into that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get into that right now then. Because that is a policy decision that you guys are also going to have to make. So, many of you are probably aware that 1824 required you to either be hooked up to a public sewer system or a comparable sewer system. So that could look like an engineered septic system for like a larger development. LD 2173 removed that language from its law. So currently, your land use ordinance allows comparable sewer systems. You can keep that language because it is more permissible than LD 2173. But you do not have to if that is not what, the policy of the town going forward. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can you just explain the rationale for why the change between the law? Is it just easier, or was there something else that was considered and they removed that more permissible language?
So, I don't 100% know why they removed it. I can tell you right now that a lot of municipalities did not like it. And I can only speak from the perspective of the municipality I used to work for when we were having these conversations. But engineered sewer systems, in order for them to function correctly, you need like an HOA system. You need to be putting away money as a collective in order to keep the maintenance up for those types of systems. And sometimes they fail. Generally speaking, that's due to neglect or overuse or not the right kind of maintenance, all that sort of stuff. But when a community septic system like that fails, it can be a real liability to the town and the environment. Doesn't happen all the time. If a system's kept in good working condition, it's not a problem, but generally there was concern over the HOA either dissolving or not putting away enough to take care of that system. That was like the big concern from the municipality I was working with.
That's super helpful. I actually know of an example of this.
I do
That's
too.
ongoing. Yeah, so.
Yes.
That's very helpful.
So it sounds like the long and short of it is there's a risk in allowing a comparable sewer system, or you have to put, well, even with a lot of additional specifications tied to it, there, I guess there'd still be a risk. Kathy, you look like you're ready to say something.
Yes. Public sewer systems are required by law to meet what they call secondary treatment standards, and engineered systems of subsurface are not required to meet secondary treatment standards. They're basically a subsurface, which is not secondary treatment. So a higher level of treatment is the secondary standard, which pushes me in the favor of a public wastewater system.
Yeah, I tend to agree that it could get awfully, it just seems more straightforward to say public sewer system and leave it at that, especially with Bridgton has, I mean, it's not all over town, but it's pretty extensive, the sewer system in this town.
It has a public sewer system.
Yeah.
I think because the sewer system needs more input, and therefore this would support that, and because the water quality of our water resources are so critical to the future of this town, I'm in favor of making it more restrictive.
And do you have any thoughts?
I have to agree with Maggie, actually.
Yeah, I think the other place where this change might go, doesn't have to, but maybe should, is in the subdivision. You know, we call out central sewer and central water. I think we should just call out public sewer to go down to 5,000 square feet, which is required in the other districts anyway. And we found ways through cluster housing to allow engineered systems for, you know, to allow people to go down to lower lot sizes with engineered systems. But 5,000 is really low. So we don't have to do that now, but I mean, we could keep subdivision separate, but you know, the issue in subdivision comes because it's usually sometimes in areas where there is no sewer. But we've basically said, you know, lot sizes can be reduced through cluster housing as long as they can meet the state specifications for septic. So, what are you thinking, Maggie? I see something rolling around in your head.
I mean, I always want to incentivize denser development where public sewer and water is, and I think anything that does that is my preferred.
Rolf, any additional thoughts?
No, I'm good.
You're good? So do we want to change it in both subdivision and in the districts? Go ahead.
I didn't hear what Maggie tailed off on. I heard you denser and public
we have
sewer
to-
systems,
that end
and
of
then
the
I didn't
table
hear
starting
I know.
with
The
Rolf
end of
needs
your
to
statement.
It's funny, I
speak
could
up.
hear myself in the mic and it freaked me out. Just that I think there's another critical item in here that deals with like our subdivision is different than everything else. But I think maintaining the extra density bonus for like public sewer. So having that.
only, not allowing that. Because I guess the reason I'm asking that is I thought I read somewhere when I was reviewing this that, you know, because I wondered if there could be an exception around places that like aren't in the flood zone,
Yeah.
aren't in, because I thought I read that in the context of this and some of the application of the ordinances, because, I mean, I totally agree that density where there's public sewer is ideal, but I wouldn't want to limit if there are opportunities in other places. At least I'd want to consider it.
I'd say let's, based on the consensus of the board, let's go forward adopting it, and then, you know, we're going to have public hearings on this, and if we run into, you know, something that we think needs to be changed, we can do it. Okay? There's a decision.
Sounds good.
Okay?
So I've really focused in on the definitions at the very beginning of these actions because the definitions are the easiest, low-hanging fruit.
Appreciate that.
No problem. So the next thing that LD 2173 defines is common scheme of development. And so just for those who are unaware of what that would look like, so a landowner could potentially own 3 or 4 lots that are situated right beside each other. They could then decide, I would like to develop these 3 lots as a commercial area. So maybe I'll have a building that spans 2 lots and another building that is sharing the lot with half of the first building, and so they're just kind of putting buildings wherever they want on the 3 lots that they own, regardless of, you know, where those lot lines fall. This happens a lot in larger communities, and basically there are rules when you do that about having to develop those buildings, you know, to look and function like they are one cohesive site. So that's kind of what this is describing. Other common schemes of development are condo associations. So a lot of the time, you know, you've got one lot and you're building multiple structures on that one lot, and so they're all under common ownership until they're sold off. Therefore, they are being built as a common scheme of development. And so certain design standards would apply to them. Currently, you know, Bridgton doesn't actually use this language in their ordinance, but you can update your ordinance to include design standards for common schemes of development, or that could be part of your mitigation strategy, and it would just clarify what that is for developers and the public and the planning board.
And right now, we have it for solar farms. So this would replace what that definition, but basically it's the same sort of application, just to more broadly, you know, bottom line.
And I know I placed this under required action. Looking back on it, when I thought about it more, maybe you don't need to do this, but like it could be helpful.
It seems like even just having the definition allows us options going forward, even if we don't pull the trigger on them.
Oh, yes.
Because certainly there's been discussions about design standards and other things, and, well, Maggie can speak to this. It's good for something to have sort of a unified approach.
I love that.
I also forgot to mention that, again, I know that this is neither here nor there, but in order for any municipality in Maine to enact a rate of growth ordinance, they need to have this definition in their ordinance, because the rate of growth ordinance stuff, and I'll create a flyer to explain it better. I won't really get into it tonight because I'm not prepared to speak on it. But it gets very complicated, and there are rules specifically about common scheme of development. So if you look to go in that direction, you're going to need it.
Yeah. I don't know that we will for the next few years, but it's, to me, I mean, if the board has consensus around this, it seems to me like it's worthwhile to change the one that only applies to solar farms to adopt the state one. So, any objections to that?
No objections, I agree.
Okay. All right. On to the next one.
All right, this one is also pretty easy. Definition for small child care facility. So just so everybody is aware, this seems like it's out of left field, but LD 2173 kind of tacked some rules around child care facilities and child care providers kind of like at the end of the law. One of the things that they are now requiring municipalities to do is to allow small child care facilities and family child care providers in any zone that allows residential uses and have them regulated in the same way that single-family residences are zoned in that area. So to make it very simple, single-family zones are allowed everywhere, or single-family dwellings are allowed everywhere in Bridgton except the DVB one
Yeah.
first floor. And the single-family dwellings are allowed everywhere except there through a permit through the code enforcement officer. So basically, I'm suggesting you add this definition, but I'm also going to be suggesting you add this use in that way to your schedule of uses. Because you do have a daycare use, but your daycare use and the definition of small child care facility are different.
Yeah, they are. A daycare facility really is a commercial operation, the way the definition reads. Maine licensed facility, blah, 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 part of a 24-hour day to children or adults, does not include provision of daycare services in a dwelling unit where the property owner is the proprietor of the business. So, I mean, it kind of sounds like when this was written, we wanted to allow people to be able to offer, sort of like personal daycare out of their homes.
How do they define small? How do they define the word small?
I think that definition
actually-
is 3 to 12 kids. Is that what it is?
Let me check Appendix A, because it'll be in there. I just got to find it real quick.
I think it was 3 to 12 kids.
Yeah, I think it's less than 12, but it is on page 2 of Appendix A, and it says, small child care facility means a house or other place, not the residence of the operator, in which a person or combinations of persons maintains or otherwise carries out a regular program for consideration for any part of the day, providing care and protection for 3 to 12 children under the age of 13.
Whereas it's like I have 2 children, which I don't, but I have 2 children and they're not ready for first grade yet, and I have a neighbor who offers childcare out of her home. And maybe there's 4 children. I mean, I know of multiple situations like this, and this would allow this in every district, and it would be authorized by the code enforcement officer.
Exactly.
And we have to allow it. We can't not allow it. Whereas with the daycare facility, it does restrict a daycare facility from certain districts. So, does it make sense to keep daycare facility and we have to add the other one, there's not a choice. But do we want to keep daycare facility the way it is and just add the other? That's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Sounds like a yes. Okay.
All right. Next one. So we're out of definitions now. And I think I touched on this a little bit already, but LD 2173 provides a height bonus to affordable housing developments. So this was also in LD 1829, but it was way more permissive. Like, they kind of reined it in a little bit through LD 2173. So the height bonus can only happen for affordable housing districts that are in a growth area and attached to both public water and sewer. The other thing that it does is that the affordable housing development can only get one additional floor or 14 extra feet. And there is a cutoff. So it can't be more than, I think it was 54 or 55 feet tall. It also includes a whole bunch of like review standards from different like fire departments and whatnot for safety. But that's one of the requirements. And so I believe that I was suggesting that you update section 5-11.c to include these standards, because that's where you also have your density bonus standards. Just, it makes sense to keep them all in the same place.
Right, so we have a section in the site plan for affordable housing developments, and this would just get added to that. And those include the requirement, it can go up to 55 feet, right?
Yes.
But if, for instance, if our fire ladder, whatever, our best fire engine couldn't reach up that high, then I think the way that standard's written that would be added, then you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
my understanding of it too. And also, I'll just clarify real quick. So in a lot of your zones, actually, your maximum building height is 35 feet. What this height bonus would allow is them to add another floor or 14 feet.
Right.
So in a lot of your zones, you're not even going to have buildings up to 55 feet because
Right.
that's even taller than what's required by this this law. Where it would get interesting is, actually, it might not apply. I would have your lawyers check to see if it applies, because you have one zone, I think it's the MUC, that allows buildings up to 60 feet.
Yeah, it's either
But that's
MUC or
It's OC and MUC.
or the OC.
Yeah, but those are only
And
commercial.
inner quarters, 45 feet, which is, I don't know why somebody envisioned a skyscraper would be in Bridgton, but that might be a change in the future.
I feel like adding height for the purpose of affordable housing is far more important than any of those other
Yeah.
potential uses.
Yeah,
in
at
those
some
zones.
point, we should look at the height specs in the outer quarter and mixed-use quarter, because I can't imagine what it would be like if somebody came with an application for that, for something like that high.
Could we
Maggie?
also add a reference to this in the table, the dimensional standards table in section 3.3, just for ease of the utility of it, so that you can see that there's a bonus available?
In the dimensional table?
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
at least
so
a reference or
add
something.
a
there.
note in the dimensional table or something
However it makes sense, but just something there as well as.
that references it.
Yeah. But I think it makes sense for its permanent home to be in the
Okay.
affordability.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good with that?
And,
All right.
before we move on, I just want to clarify one thing too, is that the places where it's already 60 feet, under the law, they wouldn't get another floor.
They would not, okay.
They would not. Now that I've stopped to think about it for a second, I was like, no, because the density or the height bonus is only up to 55 feet.
Right.
So that's
Okay.
kaput there. Okay. And then the dimensional standards. So that's where things get a little bit more complicated. And this memo actually doesn't go fully into those changes. So to really see that for yourself, I would go to the ordinance recommendations for Chapter 3. And then it is page, what page is that? I should add page numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Page 5 is where it starts. You can look at this and Appendix B at the same time, because Appendix B, what I ended up doing with Appendix B is, I know a couple months ago you guys had a presentation on how LD 1829 was going to impact the minimum lot sizes in all the different districts. I basically took that chart and redid it based on LD 2173. So what ended up coming of that was basically I separated out the minimum lot sizes depending on whether there were public utilities present, the minimum lot size per dwelling unit, which is something that you guys didn't, well, you kind of had it, but it wasn't in the dimensional chart previously. And then I added a section for what the minimum lot size without public utilities and what the minimum lot size per dwelling unit without public utilities was. So you could really see it broken out. Because otherwise you would have ended up with a lot of notes clarifying how things worked. And that was going to get really confusing. You still ended up with some notes, but.
I personally like the way, can see how we could lay out a chart which would make it easy for people to understand in terms of public water, yes, then this is your lot size. Let me address one thing that we're going to have to decide. Well, why don't you go wherever you were going to go next with this?
You know what, this is like one of the most confusing portions of LD 2173. So let me just describe some of the stuff that I've done in this chart.
And which one are we looking at, this one?
Let's
Appendix B
stay
one?
focused on Chapter 3 for a second.
Okay. Yep.
What I want to just put on the table first and foremost is during our first meeting, there was a overall request to try to simplify the dimensional standards chart because you already had, significant number of notes in it. How I did that was I pulled out your shoreland zoning dimensional standards and I moved them to Chapter 4. There is a note on here that basically states, if your lot is within the shoreland zone, please turn to this section to see the dimensional standards that apply to you. So this chart is just going to look so different than the one that you currently have. So I just want you to be aware
Yeah.
of that first and foremost.
So one of the things that was done during the consolidation to simplify, and I think probably Rolf and Kathy may be the only ones, was in the dimensional table to place all the dimensional standards, including for shoreland zoning, on that one page. And you see that because it says if in the shoreland zone. As opposed to going to another section. But on the other hand, it does make that table a bit more complicated. I think to me, having a note directing you to shoreland zoning can work, because what we don't want to do is just forget, like, developers haven't always put the shoreland zone on the maps, so, which, of course, we are working to rectify, but we just don't want to overlook it if there's a development in the shoreland zone. So, those are my thoughts. Who else has any thoughts about that?
Could there be a table for shoreland zone just like right after the dimensional standards? Because I agree, I like pulling it out. It makes sense for my brain, at least. It's like, okay, I'm in the shoreland zone, this applies, go here, just look at that.
So just go directly to,
But I don't know if I feel like having all tables together makes sense.
so you would just break
I don't know,
the
that's like a
section
really
into,
minor-
you would just break the section into if not in the shoreland zone, so you'd have one dimensional table, and then you'd have if in the shoreland zone
Yeah.
as another dimensional table in the same section. And then in the shoreland zoning section, it would include the uses and that sort of thing. It almost begs the case of should the shoreland zoning, should the use chart, I don't want to get things too complicated, but should the use chart for shoreland zoning also be in the use section? But
Or there's just a whole separate chapter for shoreline zone. Like,
Yeah.
if in shoreline zone, go here, and everything is there.
yeah,
I guess.
and that's
how
what
I'm-
Shannon's suggesting.
Okay, yeah, great.
I'm trying to mimic the setup of Chapter 3 so that,
Yeah.
if you're familiar with Chapter 3 and then you go to Chapter 4, it looks almost exactly the same.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Sounds good.
Any additional thoughts? Rolf?
I'm just thinking the two charts would make people think about it more.
If they're in the same area.
They will think about it more and won't forget it.
But that's, yeah. Well, then that would sort of say, do what Maggie's saying, is to have, a simpler chart for the area not in the shoreland zone. And then right behind that is,
Shoreland zone.
on the next page or whatever, is if in the shoreland zone. And you have the chart and it models it the same way.
It would force people to do the review. Some people, not everybody. People to look at that and see if it applies.
Yeah. I'm fine either way, so. We don't ever want to forget the shoreland zone, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and we had an example of that, like I missed.
What's that?
I missed the shoreline zone. Like, you caught the shoreline zone on an application last time. That
Yeah.
I didn't.
And you didn't?
No.
I can't believe
Can I
that.
admit that?
Yeah, that's something we have to correct.
You're being recorded.
That
I
was,
know, but I
that was
didn't
on one application, actually
Yeah.
made it not meet a standard, so it's really important. So I think what we wanted, okay, so I think I'm hearing consensus of pull it out of the chart it's in now, make a shoreland zoning chart, but keep it in the same section behind it. So,
I can do that. I might have to just bring forward some information from chapter 4. Like, I'd keep it in chapter 4, but if you guys look at the chart that I created, sorry, I have so many pieces of paper I've given you, but it's the one that says chapter 4, shoreland zoning.
Yep.
You could look at the chart, and part of the chart is that I've listed out the zones in shoreland zone.
Yes.
So I might just also recommend that you add these zones to, there's a section before the dimensional standards that clarifies the regular zoning districts. I might suggest you add the shoreland zoning districts to that section, just so people know what this means.
Okay, yep, I got it.
Okay.
And it could be, right. It could even just be, an introduction on the table too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This is really making me think about whether we should have 2 use tables in the use table section, but
That would be too
This is a
complicated.
lot of.
let's not go down that. All right, so are we all good with that? We all know what it is? Okay, thank you. On to the next item.
Okay.
Oh, well, the next item within those lot size things, yeah,
Yes.
or
Yes.
whatever.
So, some of the other things that you will notice about this chart, other than I pulled out the shoreline zoning standards, is that I did my best to reduce some of the notes, or just clean up some of the language of the notes to make it a little
Yeah.
bit easier to understand. So one of the things that I suggested, which you don't have to do, is that in order to get some of the notes that were dimensional standards that specifically applied to uses, like salvage yards, water extraction, solar energy facilities, in order to, I didn't get rid of them, I moved them to a different section. I created a new section that basically discusses dimensional standards for specific uses. So if you're on page 5, turn to page 7, and you will see red lines for a section called K. And that's where I moved those notes. So that also helped me simplify the table. Again, you don't have to do that. I just, you guys were like, this table's a little unwieldy. What are your suggestions for making it a little bit easier to use? This was one of them. And those kind of specific dimensional standards for specific uses, those could get way bigger if you want them. Like, I know people who have entire performance standard sections for different uses. Not going to suggest that right now. That is like a much bigger zoning overhaul type thing. But this is kind of like a mini version of that.
Yeah, this allows it. So I like it this way because it's all in one spot. And footnotes have killed me in the past in one item where I think on the Mountain Road development at the very last minute we had to change things when we were at the final stages because I didn't notice a footnote.
And
Thoughts? Go,
I just
Kathy?
had one quick question. On the table 3-3, C2, you've got a minimum lot size per dwelling unit without public utilities under DVB1, and I don't think we actually have any dwelling units in DVB1 that.
You're not the only one who called that out. But there is a method to the madness. But it's a policy question. So, one of the things that LD 2173 lets you do when it comes to dimensional standards is so in a growth area where there is public sewer and water, the minimum lot size that we are now allowed to have is 5,000 square feet. The minimum lot size per dwelling unit in areas like that is 1,250 square feet. So basically what that means is if you have a 5,000 square foot lot, you are allowed to build a 4-unit apartment on it under this new law. But when it comes to that 5th unit, the town is now allowed to choose how much extra square footage you need in a lot to allow for that 5th unit. So the way that I wrote it is that if you look at note 13 and note 14 on page 5, note 13 is written as minimum lot size per dwelling unit shall be 1,250 square feet for the first 4 dwelling units. Additional units must meet the zoning district's requirement for minimum lot size without public utilities. That is a policy question. You don't have to do that. It was just kind of one of those things that, like, it's how in some of the zones I got you back to your original, like, lot size.
You're right.
But for DVB1, your original lot size is 2,500 square feet.
Right.
So if you want me to put NA there, I would have to change that note a little bit to be like, except in the DVN1 where additional units will be required to have 250 square feet passed.
I would leave DVB1 at the 2,500, for future units like it is now. But for these others where there's, very significant changes, and, maybe we need the visuals before making a decision, but for DVN, which can go from 20,000 to 5,000, and some of the lots are 8, 9, 7 acres with old homes facing the street, old historic homes facing the street. I don't think I'd want to go, me personally, I don't think I'd want to go whole hog right off the bat. So I would say first 4, follow the law. After that, it's whatever the district lot size is. So that's my feeling. I don't know if everybody agrees with me.
Okay, I can see where the logic comes in.
Yeah.
We got one agreement.
You got one agreement down
I
there.
agree.
It does add a note, but it also, the way I look at it, you can always make it less restrictive, but it might be best to see what happens when the new, for a few years, what happens with the new law. And just do the minimum that we need to do.
Don't worry, they'll change it in a year or 2.
You can always, it's usually easier to go less restrictive than more restrictive.
This has me thinking like a lawyer, which I am not, but
Why not?
because it's not for me. But this table says public utilities and others reference public water and sewer, and I don't know, I feel like those should match up.
Speak up.
I just, this table says public utilities and others say public water and sewer specifically.
Oh, okay.
So just making,
So
so going with public water and sewer.
Correct.
And having the definition match
Right.
what we have.
right.
Because
That makes
our
sense.
water system is privately owned, but
Yeah,
for the public.
that
And that's,
makes sense to me.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Becky.
Any other thoughts? I'd say let's incorporate it as suggested, and then, again, this is one that as we go through public hearings, and get visuals, we might,
Get it washed out.
yeah. All right.
Yeah, and if there are any other questions that pop up specifically about the non-required changes that I suggested for this chart, like, feel free to, like, I don't know, if Ashley's up for it, give your questions to Ashley or Deb. They'll funnel them to me, and I'll explain the method behind the madness, and that could help also open up a couple more conversations.
So, so I want to throw one more thing out there, if that's okay, that I think board needs to be. So if you look at your chart, let's see which one it is. All right, I'll describe it, and yeah, it's the chart on Appendix B. Okay. So, as it stands today, in our current ordinance, and we have 3 growth areas, well, 4, but DVB 1 and 2, DVN, and inner quarter IC. So on this chart, what it's got that RN and MUC are partially in a growth area. They are not today. The 2025 comp plan takes a piece of the MUC and redistricts it to inner quarter. So when the comp plan is implemented, well, it's been approved by the voters, but when it's translated into regulations, then there's lots that have been designated, that 117 area is designated to change over to inner quarter. And at that time, all those lots would be growth in the growth area by definition, because the new comp plan still has inner quarter. And it's the same situation with rural neighborhood, which a portion of rural neighborhood close to town was carved away of a few lots in the comp plan to become downtown village neighborhood. So again, downtown village neighborhood is a growth area. When we implement regulations of the comp plan, those lots, assuming those same lots that are described in the comp plan are agreed to by the voters of the town, or they're not changed during public hearings, discussions, whatever, then they automatically become in the growth area. I'm a little concerned about, so if we were to do these now instead of later, I think what you're suggesting, Shannon, is we would actually have to call out the lots that are in the comp plan. So the comp plan has lots that are now in rural neighborhood and mixed use quarter that are going to go to different districts. We can't, I'm not suggesting that we change in this housing project we have, that we modify the districts and the district maps at this time to align with the comp plan. The reason being is it's going to be a process all in of itself, and it may not come out exactly the way what's described in the comp plan. It has to be consistent with the comp plan. So it's possible that if there's 10 lots from mixed-use quarter or 20 lots from mixed-use quarter that are designated to go to inner quarter, that maybe only 8 lots will go, or 12 lots will go. So my preference, if it's legal, is not to touch that yet, and to wait until we actually start the next land use project, or the land use project that deals with converting the policies of the comp plan into ordinance requirements. And otherwise, the other way to do it is to list the lots, which then if they change will be we'll be taking that out and changing it anyway. So those are my thoughts, because I think it could get confusing, and also when you change somebody's district, I mean, Rolf, you probably have more experience than me in this, for sure, but I just envision if district changes get mixed in with, even if it's just your lot is now in a growth area, that the folks that own those lots, they're all going to be on the notification, and I'd be worried it really muddies the waters, because,
Can
so
ask
I would, if it's legal to
clarifying?
not do this now, I would rather not do it now.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Does the official adoption of the comp plan reset our growth areas, or does that still have to be done? Because I know
No.
with zoning districts, it doesn't.
Well, it designates them, and it's still the same growth areas. It's inner quarter, downtown village neighborhood.
But doesn't the map has changed, so we have to go through a process to change any districts, but my understanding is that the adoption of the comp plan does change the
No,
growth
it does
area.
not. Well, it doesn't change the growth areas. It changes the lots that are included in the growth areas.
Yeah.
Because it changes the districts. So
I
there's,
think of it as 2 layers. Tell me if I'm misunderstanding. So
no,
like,
go ahead.
we have our zoning map, and that stays the same even though we adopted the comp plan.
Right.
And there's an overlay of growth areas that maybe previously adhered to strict zoning district lines, but now does not match that. But we've officially adopted the growth areas.
The issue becomes that when we go to implement those, the map doesn't have to be exactly the same, the lots don't have to be exactly the same. It has to be consistent with the purposes of those growth areas. And so they may be the same, but the last time we translated the 2014 comp plan into the new maps, there were changes. And now maybe you want to talk about the overlay idea here, Shannon. I just think it could get, we can list the lots, but I just think they're 2 separate projects, and a comp plan is not a regulation. It's not a regulation until you put it into, so those maps are essentially not effective
So if the district-
until they get into an ordinance.
If the district changes in size, so we make DV2 bigger,
Right,
we're adding lots to that.
right,
Those new lots are going to be will now be applied to the growth standard.
correct.
And potentially, we're also, if we're moving lines around, we're taking people out of the growth district,
But
aren't we?
You're not taking anybody out of a growth district, I don't think. You're only
Well, if somebody
putting,
was in downtown village, and now it's not, it's something else. Something else applies to that lot?
what I've read in the comp plan is a section of rural neighborhood closest to town becomes, several lots become downtown village neighborhood, I think, or DVB2, and I think it's downtown village neighborhood. And therefore, by definition,
Their growth.
area. And then the same for the mixed-use corridor, the portion that's on 117 will be redistricted to become the inner quarter. Therefore, it would also now be in a growth area. But we haven't implemented the plan.
But adopting a comp plan, like the one purpose of, well, there's many, of course, but like the legal purpose of adopting and updating a comp plan is to officially adopt new growth areas, correct?
So I just want to add really quickly that I think we all have some different
perception of what the law is requiring of us with the housing updates specifically. This is a little bit different than I think our previous experience with implementing a comp plan, because this was very explicitly called out in the law, in the changes, was that if you identified specific areas of your community as a growth area, what is in your comp plan is what this law applies to. That was my understanding of the law and what I've been told multiple times. But I think we really need to run this by legal and get clarification, because I do think there's some differing perceptions of what the law, interpretations, I should say, of what the law is telling us. So the interpretation that I have been told is that what's in our comp plan is what we are supposed to apply this law to. It doesn't matter if we've applied it legally by our ordinance changes. It matters when our comp plan passed. That's really what matters. Our comp plan passed by the voters, so that is what the state is going to refer to our growth areas as.
Right.
So that's what we have to look at.
I think we need to go to legal, because when I think about it, I say the comp plan says the growth areas are inner corridor, DVN, and DVB 1 and 2, which we already are consistent with in the ordinance. So it's a question of these specific lots, which need an ordinance change and a vote by the people of the town to actually be put into the growth areas. So they can't just automatically be put in there without the town voting on it.
The growth area is determined by the line on the map, not the district.
That's another legal question. I've always been told that the text rules over the map. So
But the vote to change the district is a town vote.
it's a town vote. So that's my concern, is enacting something that's a town vote to implement the comp plan.
So we have questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would definitely agree with Ashley, because I'll throw it out. Ashley was spot on for how I was reading it. I didn't know the context behind the fact that those lots that are in RN are supposed to change to DVN. All I did was go straight to the map, looked at the outline, and I overlaid that outline on your existing zoning, and I was like, these are all the areas that are affected. So I would 100% agree with Ashley, getting some legal advice on how to apply that. Again, not a lawyer myself, so you might want to take it up.
So is everybody agreeable to going to legal to figure out what we have to do and what we don't have to do? My big concern is,
Unless other communities have already done this and we don't have to go to, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean,
If there's already
the comp plan is approved. It's a policy document. It's not an ordinance. It's not regulations. That's my concern. I'm not saying I want to change those, but if we're going to do it, I think we would just, I don't think we would change the map in this, because then we're going really to, I think we would just list the lots out in those neighborhoods that are RN and MUC.
For me, it's a question of, do we go to our lawyers and spend the money, or is this a question that other communities have faced and there's a broader answer to?
You want to use the other lawyers and save us money.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I don't care. We can use
Just if there's already
MMA,
an
or we
answer,
can use,
then we don't have to go to just for us, if you can go to
Deb and I did
MOCA.
talk about also running this by the Housing Opportunity Program, because
Yeah.
they're the
That's a
ones who
good
are
place.
giving us
Yes.
guidance on this.
Yeah.
So
I
we'll
can
probably
definitely
start
run
there.
it, by Ben and Hillary.
Right, and we have one more complication. We can change lots to growth areas, but it's going to be a while before we get the infrastructure that goes with growth areas, like water and sewer, into those areas. So, I mean, this is not going to be an instantaneous, we call it growth, and growth is going to happen because we still have the issues of
Right.
the infrastructure.
Right, but it would change if we have to do it now. And believe me, I'm a proponent of this change in the comp plan, a big proponent of it. It means that for those lots it means that lots that now require 80,000 square feet, a section of lots, are now going to go to a minimum of either 10 or 20,000 square feet, I think, right?
It's 20.
Yeah, 20.
So if you look at.
So that's a very, very big change.
Yes.
Anyway, 20,000. Okay.
Yes.
Because they don't have public utilities, essentially. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's captured in note 11. But
Okay.
note 11 might not be necessary depending on what you find out from MOCA. So,
If we do have to do it, I would be a proponent of just listing the lots, because we don't know what's going to happen when we go to implement the comp plan. And then we would still be compliant, I think. Anyway, all right. Which attorney are we going to, just so we know? Our attorney, which is going to look at this in the long run anyway, or the MMA attorney? Or?
I think we don't go to an attorney yet. Or should we just make the
I
decision
think
now?
maybe you ask other chairmen of planning boards what they've done, if they've had an attorney.
If they've done anything, okay.
I think MOCA, there's so many communities across Maine facing the same, how many people, how many towns updated their comp plan, so.
The thing I'm worried about, but not that I object to talking to other chairs, is that they're probably I don't have a problem with it, but just because they're doing something also doesn't mean it's legal. So that's not to knock other towns. I'm just saying, I'm sure they're having a lot of discussion and confusion. I would go to Housing Opportunity Program, because I think those people are the people that are going to have to look at our ordinance at the end and make the decision whether that we've met the requirements based on it, that they gave us $15,000 for.
In a lot of cases, though, we're all using the same attorney.
Yeah. I just think
Well,
We don't
that's the
need
other
to
reason to go to our attorney.
go to our attorney. This
We go to
feels
our attorney,
like something
we
that
pay
a lot
if
of
we
people.
go.
Well, go ahead, hold on, go ahead.
I just think this is a scenario that other towns are definitely going to be in, and it feels silly for us to spend the money on legal to find an answer when maybe somebody already has the answer. Whether a GPCOG community or somebody at MOCA has faced this, and then if not, maybe we come to that, but it could be something maybe MOCA could, right?
Yeah, I would go to the Housing Opportunity Program first, because if they say yay or nay, I feel pretty confident that
They're right.
Yeah.
they're right. They're the ones writing the rules we have to follow right now.
I will say the text in the law defines, it says that it's the geographic area that's defined in your.
Okay. So I'm happy to reach out to them, or for us both to compose something to reach out to them.
This is just the tight side of the board. The
What's-
tight side of the board, we don't want to spend money.
Well, we have plenty of other things that I'd love to spend money on. Just
I'm
not
cool
this
with it.
question.
I mean, the Housing Opportunity Program these are the guys basically telling us what we have to do, so
And
if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. All right, glad we got that one out of the way.
Probably the most fun one we'll talk about tonight.
Yeah, so why don't we keep rolling here?
all right, we got 3 more required. So, LD 2173 prevents municipalities from requiring planning board approval for accessory dwelling units, or solely because the project will establish 4 or fewer dwelling units within a single structure on a lot. The way that I suggested you guys handle this was to put a note in your schedule of uses table that clarifies that dwelling dwelling multifamily use, that for buildings with 4 or less units, your CEO would be responsible for the site plan review, and then buildings for 5 or more dwelling units, your planning board would be responsible for the site plan review. So, and just to clarify, because I have talked about this with other planners, is that the law prevents planning board approval, but it doesn't prevent site plan review. So it's one of those things that it's just you guys can't do the approval, so your CEO still can.
And that would be for
For,
up to 4 units in a?
yes.
In a single building.
And I believe your accessory dwelling units already don't require site plan. I think they're just.
They're just permit.
They're
yeah.
just permit through the CEO, so you're already in compliance with that. So it's mostly just dwelling multifamily that had to have a note added to it.
Yeah, so that it would apply to, say, a 4 apartment building, which could be in the middle of downtown, it could be in DBN. So it would be approved through site plan by the CEO, as opposed to just a dwelling permit. And that makes sense to me, because there's considerations of parking and safety and all that other good stuff.
Would this need to change our definition of multifamily, dwelling multifamily? Or just a note to clarify? Because our definition is
I think you
3 or
did
more.
change the definition
Did we already do
to.
I didn't change the multifamily definition. Could you remind me of what it is?
So ours is a building consisting of 3 or more attached dwelling units.
No, you wouldn't have to change that.
Yeah.
Because it still is 3 or more dwelling units.
It's
You're
just
just
the
giving
review.
power
Okay,
for
right.
triplexes and
Right.
quadplexes to your CEO.
Okay, great.
Great question, though. I was about to say, your ordinance is very hefty, so there are chances that, there are portions that I didn't realize would also need to change, so.
Yeah. I'm okay with this, with the code officer doing a site plan review instead of just permitting it as a residence. I see a lot of head shaking. We good with that?
Yep.
Okay. On to the next one.
Okay, this one's little, but, and it also changed, so it is your original note 24, and now I'm like, what did that change to? Hold on one second.
I think it's note 24 in section 33B,
It
not
is-
33C.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Yes. So, basically, LD 1829 states that you can't have dimensional standards that are stricter for multifamily buildings than they are for single-family buildings. And I believe that I got 2 different sections. So, note 24 from the dimensional standards basically said it allowed for a reduction in setback for single-family homes in one of your units, or in one of your zoning districts. And so I suggested updating that to just be all residential dwellings.
So we really have to do that. You're just
Yeah, you
suggesting
have
we
to do
do
that.
do it through a.
I mean, the other thing is, what you can do is you eliminate that note, and you don't like any dwellings that close, and you require all buildings to meet the same setback. That's also a policy choice. It just might not be the route you want to go. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Yes, so if you flip the page to page 6, it's note 15. So in the OC and RN districts, the minimum setback from any common, oh, no, sorry, number 16. In the MUC district, no, sorry, 15. The minimum setback from any common lot line for an accessory dwelling unit is 15 feet. No, sorry. I have read to you partially 2 different notes. Neither one is the one that I want to read to you. I will find it another time, but trust me, there is one zone that you have that allows single-family homes to be set back 15 feet.
It's the MUC.
It is the MUC.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I look at the,
15 feet for single-family dwellings, 25 feet for all other structures, which all other structures is different than all dwelling.
does it say single-family dwelling, did you
It
say?
says 15 feet for single-family dwellings.
Yeah, so the decision there is either you let all residential dwellings be set back 15 feet, or you just make all buildings set back, did you say 25 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, 25 feet.
And that's just in the MUC, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Then this note
and-
got us once. 15 feet for single-family dwellings, 25 feet for all other structures.
Should be the same.
It should be the same, and it probably should be 25, but it's up to the board.
Why not 15?
Well, because MUC is along the corridors, at least right now, and it's actually going to disappear, but completely.
It is also, there's a note 23 applies to the OC.
Right.
And it says, except for solar energy facilities, 15 feet for accessory residential structures.
The reason I would make it 25 is because it's, at least the way
Lots
it's
of-
written now, these are out in the corridors. And people are pretty, like outer quarter has 25, rural neighborhood has 25.
What
But
was the reason for reducing the setback for single family? Was there, does anybody remember?
You weren't here?
No.
no idea. Let me think about it. 15 feet, 25, I think,
Just to reduce
I think
like
really this
non-conforming.
was,
If it's
this was,
25 in other
this
districts, make
was
it
more
25.
thinking about subdivisions, because the thought was if it's a single-family dwelling, you know, it's not that obtrusive, you know, you got a 2-acre minimum, right? And so, you know, 15-foot setback, not a big deal. But if it's a condo development, that's a different story. It has more impact. It's going to maybe affect more abutters. And this came up when the Mountain Road condos were being approved, and we initially didn't see that note. And at the last minute, basically, we told the applicant, who was Dan Harden, that, you know, he needed to shift those buildings to give 25 feet. So my only thought is, right now, those corridors are wooded corridors, and people are pretty sensitive to things being right next to them.
Well, and aesthetically.
And it could be commercial buildings, too. You know?
Having setbacks line up is better. So,
Say again?
I think we should go with eliminating this.
Go with what?
Eliminating this, right? Just make it 25 for
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, that's what I suggest, is everything should be 25.
Yeah. Or whatever it is in the district. Eliminates a note, too.
It does, makes it simpler.
Simple is good. Okay.
Oh, and then, yeah, this was a two-parter. Section 3-3.c. That is where, basically, previously, you guys were mandating your minimum square feet per dwelling unit. And basically what it said was, if you're building multiple units on a single lot, then you need to have double the minimum lot size, but also double the minimum frontage and double all of the other dimensional standards. And this is another thing you might want to run by legal, but I don't think that that's going to be allowed under LD 2173.
Where is that?
Section 3-3.c. So that is, yes, rules for determining conformance with
Yep.
dimensional standards. And basically, so C2, I just took out all reference to dwelling units. Except it looks like,
So you could leave the accessory dwelling unit, one. The
No.
multifamily dwelling with the minimum lot frontage requirement requires to each building rather than each dwelling unit. Yeah, I think, well, we probably do need to ask, but I tend to agree with you. What you can't do is say that there's different rules for a single-family home versus, say, a duplex. What you can do is say you need to have, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a minimum amount of lot area or lot size per structure on the lot.
you can do that, and one of the suggestions for the dimensional standards chart, you'll see it, how I split up like minimum lot size with public utilities, and then right underneath it, it's minimum lot size per dwelling unit. So basically what that means is like, to have a lot, you need to have at least 20,000 square feet. To have 2 units on one lot, you need to have 40.
Right.
Exactly. And so that's easy when it comes to lots without public utilities. With lots with public utilities, it becomes complicated because the law states that in order to have a minimum lot in a growth area, it has to be 5,000 square feet. But in order to put 4 units, you only need 1,250 square feet per unit, which is why you can put a 4-unit apartment building
Right.
on a lot of 5,000. And so like, it's something that other towns already kind of regulate. Like maybe they'll be like, oh, you can't have a lot smaller than 20,000 square feet, but you only need 10,000 square feet per unit. So a 20,000 square foot lot would allow you to have a duplex. That's happening in other towns already. It's not happening here because you guys were regulating it under C2.
I mean, I think the only thing, we want to follow the law. I think the only thing for me is the consideration is, you know, there's some limit to how many structures can be on a lot, basically. I'm not sure on this one. So your recommendation is to strike to,
My recommendation is to strike 2A and B, and then just get rid of references to dwelling units from here. So it would read more of, if more than one principal governmental, institutional, commercial, or industrial structure or use is constructed or established on a single parcel, all dimensional standards apply to each principal structure or use.
yeah, got it. That works for me. that seems to say it has to do with the structure and not with dwelling unit versus commercial versus multifamily. Again, once this gets changed, we're going to have hearings anyway. We okay with that? Maggie's thinking, I can see.
Yeah,
There's smoke coming up.
yeah, for sure.
It's a lot. Like,
This is a visual one for me.
Yeah.
Of like, I can't, I want to be able to picture it. I mean, we're going to do it, like,
Okay, I got that note.
and then the last of the required is adding, I think I mentioned this already, adding
Right.
small childcare facility and family childcare provider as uses to the schedule of uses. And you just let it be permitted by the CEO in all areas that allow single-family houses to be permitted by the CEO. To piggyback off that is that
And I think we were agreeable to that earlier. All right, that's a go.
and in order to, this is low-hanging fruit as well, the law doesn't require you to add a definition of family child care provider to your ordinance, but I suggest you do. And just add the state's definition for what that is. So you don't have to put any thought into it. You just be like, the use is now on the table, the definition is now in its spot, and we're good.
Works for me. We good? All right.
Okay, and now, I feel like we've talked about some of these things, so just give me one moment to refresh my mind.
I don't think we've talked about this. You mentioned it, but excluding lots, consider excluding lots in special flood hazard areas from state statute requirements.
Yes, so that's something that the board might also want to review on its own, that there are limits to LD 2173, which is good. There weren't limits to 1829, so there have been some bumpers added, which is overall an improvement. So municipalities are allowed to exempt lots or portions of lots that are within special environmentally sensitive areas. Two of these areas are not going to apply to Bridgton because you're not a coastal community, but those two are coastal barriers or coastal sand dune systems. But Bridgton may have special flood hazard areas.
We do.
And
We do.
you may wish to exempt lots or portions of lots from these requirements. I didn't look fully into how you would do that, just because it is a policy decision. But if that's something that you guys want to pursue, it's a door that's open to you.
Kathy?
Well, it's a question we always ask on the applications, are these in the floodplain? So
Right.
we at least have the map that's associated with every lot that comes before us. So it should be a relatively straightforward thing.
Yeah, I was wondering if it could just be done with a note, but that might get complicated. I don't know. How would you implement that? Would there just be a note that says if it's in a special flood hazard zone, then
Doesn't have.
XYZ doesn't apply?
Doesn't have different building requirements and
Has different requirements for the foundation, needing to be up a
Gotta be
certain
up,
amount.
yeah.
But I guess the thought here is if you're the thought behind this must be that you don't really want to crowd density into a flood area.
That's exactly what it is. You don't want to put more people at risk than is necessary or is smart.
How often does the town update the flood hazard maps? You
Uh,
know, given-
there- Brenda has the updated maps in her,
Is there a regular, like, periodicity that they get updated?
boy, that's a good question for her. I think every few years. The latest one is, I can't remember, but.
Is it up to the municipality or is it a state?
No, it's up to FEMA.
Yeah, okay.
So they're
So just as a
FEMA does them
reference to
every,
FEMA
I
maps.
think like every 5 years or something. Maybe what we could do here is just do a little bit of research to find out where these are.
Like our downtown.
Well,
Yes.
we do, I mean,
Which does flood.
one reason that lot that's for Music on Main became
Yeah.
Music on Main, the original small lot, was because it was impossible to build there because it's in the flood zone. And
Flood
the
hazard, yeah.
structural requirements were enormous, so.
And it's
um,
flooded since.
Can we maybe,
It has
I know
flooded
Brenda's going to be
in the
gone
last,
next
like,
week, but
3 years.
maybe the thing to do is just
Pizza there.
evaluate based on the maps, like, is there a really significant area that, and I guess then the question is, how do we exempt these? Is it through a note? Is it through?
When the growth areas were identified, did the flood hazard maps come into play?
No.
Is it too late to
No.
revise the growth areas? I'm just.
No, what came into play is, you want a vibrant downtown and the area
Right.
around it to be walkable, and
But-
you want to,
It's a pretty significant economic risk if you're like directing development, high growth
Yeah.
density development.
I think we need to do some research, starting with, do people agree, or what do you think?
Yeah.
You should just Google them. I'm looking at it right now. Maine flood hazard map.
Say again?
The Maine flood hazard map. I assume the state has updated FEMA data.
Yeah, there's a difference between the FEMA maps sometimes and the Maine maps, according to Brenda.
We're in a flood zone
Shouldn't
right
it just all be the same information?
Maine doesn't update them as much as FEMA.
But
I
like,
don't
isn't
think.
it just? Okay.
Yeah. But we can put Brenda, I think we can get
Make
Brenda
it make
on the
sense.
case on this and just find out where are areas that we really wouldn't want high-density construction.
Well, and I guess my question is if that's a significant proportion of what we've identified as the growth zone, should that be revised? Because we do want growth.
Well, and I
Not to
think,
be.
no, I think this is like
An important
a
question.
really like
'Cause you don't
fundamental
want this to come back to bite us.
question.
Yeah.
And like certainly in coastal communities, this is happening right now and yesterday and tomorrow.
There was
But,
Yep.
and in Bridgton, and we have all these like Corn Shop Brook is like a man-made structure. Like
Well,
there's
things
other
sinking.
tactics
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
dealing with some of this, and so thinking about it holistically, but it feels like incredibly fundamental to me.
Okay, so let's
The map is
try to sort some things out. I don't
My
know what
house
we
is
do depending on what we find. I know that there's, at one point in time, 50 years ago, I don't know, maybe Kevin knows, there was, all of Main Street was underwater.
Except for Methodist Hill.
So,
Yeah.
You rode to Methodist Hill, you walked over, and you continued.
yeah. So, okay, so we'll try to do a little work on that.
And I'll do some thinking on what would be the simplest way to implement it if you choose to go that way.
Okay.
I'm going to skip the next one just for a second because that's the big one. We already kind of discussed this. Did we decide that we were going to remove
We did
reference?
say we would remove the reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Removing. Okay, and then the last one, what did we decide about the definition for ADU? Do you want to replace the mention of multifamily with like a triplex or a 3-unit in order to make it so you can't build an ADU if you have a 5-unit apartment building on a lot already?
I would align it with the state personally. I think
Yeah.
allowing an ADU in a triplex, that's, single-family home duplex or triplex is still pretty generous. And it seems odd that you would have a 4-building apartment building and then somebody puts an ADU right next to it. Just seems like maybe you didn't, seems
I don't see-
unlikely to me.
I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
yeah.
I would just align it with the state. Anybody opposed to that? Okay. Now the
Alright.
hard one.
Yep, the biggest one for last. So obviously you guys are well aware, but I was not well aware when I started looking at your land use ordinance, that your dimensional standards for your zones are completely different from your dimensional standards for your subdivision lots. It's unique. I've not seen that before. And I'm not 100% sure if that would be allowed under the law unless Ashley has already asked the question to legal.
We have asked the question, actually, we have asked the question for a different reason to legal through MMA, and I want to say we also asked the Housing Opportunity Program, and it is highly unusual.
Yep.
However, it seems that it's legal.
Okay, it is
Now,
legal.
we can be, when legal looks this over, or actually we have a follow-up with legal, we can certainly follow up with our own legal, but MMA sent a pretty, when the whole situation came up with one of the subdivisions, Brenda reached out to MMA and they gave a pretty detailed answer, which we have, which says it's unusual, but I can't find any law restricting it.
Okay.
But how it will apply, I just know it will be it would be easy for us to change the document. It's not so easy for us, subdivision, I think, to make everybody comfortable with that, let's put it that way. Because it's been that way a very, very long time.
Just out of curiosity, quick question. What's the goal?
The goal of having it the way it is?
Yeah, because obviously there's a goal, so.
Well, I wasn't here when we did that, but the way it's been in the subdivision regs for a long time. I was told by a developer it was really so that you could have a density bonus for putting in a subdivision out, say in a rural area. It's created issues with abutters. It's created, if we were to change it, we'd have some people loving it and some people screaming. So it's probably worth checking again whether this law impacts that, but it is highly, highly unusual. The biggest impact is in the rural neighborhood, which is 70% of the town land mass and is minimum of 80,000. And I actually feel it would be easier to change that to 40,000 than it would be to, but I didn't win. That was something we tried to do a couple of years ago and it did not fly. Maggie?
I just think the North Star should be the outcome. And yeah, and how that aligns with the comp plan and any legal requirements.
Why won't we make
Say
it the same?
the North Star?
Like, the reason for doing something should
The guiding light.
the guiding star.
Okay,
Right.
because there was a North Star subdivision.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Why
thing
won't
we're
we make it the
focused
same?
on.
Pardon me?
Why won't we make it the same?
Yeah.
We can make it the same. I mean,
I mean,
we can make it the same.
it's kind of insane. Having,
We can make it the same. Subdivision can be changed with public hearing and this board agreeing. I would just say that there will be some developers that will be screaming.
I'll say again, our North Star should be
I
the outcomes
but
that are
I
good
understand.
for the community and that the community wants as a
But-
whole. I understand that we've wanted to keep this to like just what the law needs to be, but if it doesn't really make any sense, no one else is doing it this way, and we're not getting the outcomes that the community wants, it feels like.
So what are the outcomes that the community wants? Like, because I think that's a values-based, what's good for the community is a values-based question, and maybe, I didn't engage in the comprehensive plan, but I'm just curious, like, so would we make the subdivision requirements align with the residential, so it'd be 80,000 square feet? Or
But
or would we reduce the residential down to 40?
See, I think that's a broader discussion.
Yeah.
And it is very unusual. But I think the other point is that if you want affordable housing, and I'm just throwing out the devil advocate here, if you want affordable housing, smaller lot sizes allow that. And that is currently built into subdivision, whether that's the way it originally got there or not. But you bring up an excellent question, because there's probably an argument for taking 25% of that 70% of the town landmass and reducing the lot size from 80,000 square feet. So actually changing it is not, in subdivision, is not difficult, but I think we should first just assure that it's legal the way it's written, which we've gotten one read from MMA. If it is, then I think that's something separate we got to look at, to be honest. And it is highly unusual. Nobody around here has it.
Well, it definitely benefits developers.
So,
And I just think the comp plan is full, and the 2014 comp plan was as well, and I think this is where there's maybe a misalignment in vision and reality of maintaining rural areas and directing new growth to where there is already growth, and that certainly has shifted, like where there is now current growth shifted.
the 2014,
yeah.
anyway, the 2014 plan actually said for the rural neighborhood, a minimum of 1 acre would keep it rural. So
We should have a,
So
did we have a planner?
that was
review
one of
or
my,
was
that was certainly
volunteer?
one of my arguments to change it from 80,000 to 40,000 square feet. It was still consistent with the comp plan. Anyway, I think we should.
I think again, it's a difference of, like, we say we want rural, but then how do you actually get that? And that technical translation is what has not worked every single time. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's the implications of rural, both pros and cons, that
Yeah.
maybe requires a.
So I think that one we table for now.
That's completely fine. I've written down to table it. I want to say one more thing, but we probably shouldn't talk in length about it because I'm sure everybody wants to go home. But
Well, we still have a little bit more on subdivision, but that won't take long. You should go ahead and keep going.
Well, the only thing that I want to say about in the future, when you look further into your subdivision stuff, if your goal is to maintain rural character, but also allow for housing to be built closer together or density bonuses for developers, consider conservation / cluster subdivisions. And that's all I'm going to say right now on that topic, because we could be here another hour if we want to talk about what that means. But they're interesting. If you haven't heard of them before, check them out.
Yeah.
Mostly conservation subdivisions. That's probably the route
Yeah,
you'd probably want to go.
We have a bunch of ordinances we looked at, and I noticed that some of them have that. I think Scarborough was one of them. And we are working on cluster housing to make it more attractive for developers to work on.
Yeah, and I again, not plugging my own work, but I've done some work trying to write an ordinance like that for Saco, so. We can talk another time about it.
Yeah, well,
Could you share an example of your ordinance?
do we have the Saco one?
Do we have the
Yeah.
Saco one?
I wonder if I still have it. I could find it. It was a matter of public record. It's on their website.
Yeah.
But it's hidden somewhere inside their agendas, so I'll try to look for it.
You wanted so what were we supposed to do today? I know we're not done with what you, Shannon, wanted to walk away with, at least in terms of the,
Yes, there's only one thing I need left. I need you to let me know the 3 districts that you want me to make visuals for.
well, I think one is definitely downtown village neighborhood, because that's significantly affected. And it definitely has a certain character to it that could change dramatically. It seems we should stick with the growth areas if we're going, I mean, what other, I mean, mixed-use corridor is going to become inner corridor, so that might be another one that's useful to look at.
Yeah, I was
The
thinking
inner
of the ones
quarter.
that we're going to change.
Yeah. I don't know that we need to look at the downtown. Maybe maybe DVB 2, where it's only 50 lots, where Jessica was talking about, and it's mostly residential. It's mostly old farmhouses. We had talked about design mitigation for that with design standards. So maybe DVB 2,
Yep.
DVN, and inner quarter, which are the, I don't think we need to bother with DVB 1. And if you need data on lots, I think I have a listing of all the lots in each of these and their sizes.
That could be very helphelpful,
Okay.
especially if there are any, what's the word?
Vacant.
Vacant or non-controversial lots that I could play around with.
Okay.
Or town-owned
So
lots?
I'll send you
Town-owned
that
lots is a
and
great
maybe
option.
chat with Kathy and, since you live in DVN.
Yeah, I've got a listing. I did the DVN survey, so I've got a listing of a database of all the lots, lot numbers, and I think sizes of those lots.
Nice.
Okay.
So we can get that to you.
And
Perfect, thank you.
so, yeah, I think we can get you more definitive information, and we might be able to figure out what lots are vacant fairly easily. Brenda might be able to do that. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Yeah, and Kathy, definitely supply your stuff. All right, so did we get through what you wanted to get
We
through?
needed a
We did.
date for
Okay.
You need a
another
nice,
Oh,
workshop.
I didn't, you could always throw out a date, or we can get back together for a date.
Our next workshop would be August 18th. We can change that date if it doesn't make sense. We are going to review Paul Skinner's subdivision requirements, or not requirements, proposals. We're not going to necessarily, we're going to discuss them, at least start reviewing them. So I'd probably dedicate about a half hour to those, and the rest to this. We will need a public hearing for the subdivision changes at some point, but that could be a special meeting that's pretty short and quick. So if August 18th works for you and works for the board, unless people want things sooner, I'd say let's go with that. I feel like you've accomplished an awful lot in this first round in looking at things, so I don't feel as urgent about, even though we have timelines.
I just want to say you did a nice job. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes.
I think you did a very nice,
Super
the
helpful.
documents you put together for us are terrific. So does August 18th work for you, Shannon?
I will check my schedule and get back to you guys. I think August 18th should work. Earlier would just make it a little bit difficult to get together the visuals.
Yeah, so I mean, if you need more time, then we can always modify that. August 13th is let me just make sure got the right date. Wait a minute, so I'm in September. Yeah, August 18th would be our normally scheduled workshop, which is the third Tuesday.
Okay.
Or September 15th is the next.
Or
regular.
September 15th, or we just squeeze in a meeting in another week too, different week.
I mean, I'm not vital, but I can't make the 18th.
Okay. So, I mean, as long as we can meet our timeline, I don't have a problem going to the September meeting. The September meeting, or changing to later in August. So why don't you get back, why don't you get back to us and just let us know if the 18th works, or you need more time, and then we'll come up with a date.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
Is people okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. We're going to move on to subdivision, and like I said, you're welcome to stay. And thank you. I agree, Rob. Nice job.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys spending so much time with me tonight. I think I will be leaving.
You have a long way to go.
It's quite fair.
But I will see you guys all again soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. We can certainly send you via email the changes to subdivision. It's not anything.
That would be great. And if you have any questions that pop up as you get to read these documents more, just get them to Deb or Ashley, and I'm happy to answer.
Okay. So you have to, as I mentioned on a text, you have to open this in Word if you want to actually see the lawyer's red lines.
So it's more than just the red text that we're looking for?
Yeah,
Okay.
because see, this is as if it's already been changed. So if you go out of here, try to open it, and then hit this little button. Does anybody else need help with that? It should come. So now you can see his changes, and he has comments in the side.
I need an iPad
So-
on the charger, got to grab it.
Yep, been there.
Do that all the time.
So the first change, the only thing he changed from what we said 4 and it's 5.
Okay.
Any questions there? So that's been, the next change is the one about not having 2 entrances. He was fine with that. He modified the word. So his changes are the ones in red that are underlined, because remember, I made changes, and those are the purplish ones, and the red ones that aren't underlined. His comment, I understand the intent of this provision is to require fire department approval before the planning board can reduce the number of required connections to a 20-lot or unit subdivision to 1. I've tweaked this slightly for clarity. So he's just made it totally clear that the fire department has to approve it. Good with that?
Yep.
Okay. The next one, his comment is, remember there was discussion on whether it was legal for mobile home parks to use net buildable land, and long story short, the lawyer says it is. So he's got a note there.
Okay.
It says the town can't require the area of a mobile home park to be greater than the combined area of several things, including roads, buffer strips, setbacks, under an ordinance adopted pursuant to Title 38. Net buildable land excludes land not suitable for development, which includes buffers and areas protected by shoreland zoning. blah, blah. As such, I agree with the, whatever SHO is, this appears to be consistent with state law. So he accepted that exactly the way we wrote it. And then we come to cluster homes, and he found a boo-boo in item 2 on the roads. It should be V7N or V70, and I had accidentally put the wrong thing. And then for common open space, so I need to inform the board that when he changed, and you can look at his note, what he changed this to I found more confusing than what we wrote, and I didn't know exactly how when it's implemented it would look, essentially. And you can look at his note here. So I sent a note to Ashley, which was forwarded to Ben Plant, about what our intent was, and I think I got it right. It was basically, we wanted to go down to from 40,000 square feet or 30,000 square feet down to 20,000 square feet in a cluster home and for cluster development. And that the common open space, as long as the rest of the land was common open space, and that common open space could include land not suitable for development, like a wetland, okay? Based on the note I sent to him, he wanted to chat, so Ashley and I joined him this afternoon, and I tried to explain to him what we were trying to do was be more specific, because he said you can already reduce the lot size, but there's nothing in there about how much, under what conditions, how much common open space. So this is what Eric and I had worked on. So after explaining that what we were trying to do was get down as low as 20,000 square feet, and then the balance that normally would have been another 20,000 square feet, for the 40,000 square foot lot would go to common open space. So what he's suggesting, because he says he seemed, and you please speak up if I get any of this wrong, he thought it would make sense to have it be more descriptive, but to allow the board as much flexibility as was possible. And he said the way he's seen this expressed is that 50% of the buildable area has to be, I think he said buildable area, has to be dedicated to common open space. So what he's going to do...
And I think there's also an extra layer of distinction of undivided versus
contiguous.
Or contiguous versus
Right.
not.
So what he's going to do is send us a rewrite with a couple different options for us to chew on. So we're not quite done with this yet. Any thoughts? Should we be telling him, Maggie, can you repeat what you were saying? Is that something that needs to be?
So it's it's a little bit of what Shannon was saying of cluster housing, and then they're overlapping, but maybe a category within cluster housing is conservation.
Oh, the conservation.
Subdivision, which is a 1-to-1 ratio of built and open space, and specifically the thing that it encourages is good design, which is reduction of the amount of roads and
Right.
and access to open space that is contiguous and useful.
So that was
real.
sort of his first thought, was if it is akin to a one-to-one net buildable area open space requirement, then why wouldn't that be applied to any reduction from section 7 VK? But what I remembered is we talk about going down as low as 10,000, and that might not be possible due to septic. But, so I think what he's going to do is give us something that allows a little bit more of a sliding scale. Or word it like the 50% or the 1-to-1.
I'm just doing this right now, and apologies that that's how I'm doing it, but Cumberland has a conservation subdivision in their code, and it's very easily accessed on eCode 360, and you can search it, and it might be something to look at.
Yeah. I mean, I do think we should look at it in the future. I just like to get this one thing done now so that it encourages this type of development.
I'm not suggesting we go all
Okay.
the way in that direction, but just as a helpful reference of
Okay.
why and how it's written.
We can
and
add Cumberland
that's
to the
all.
OneDrive and Saco if it's not already there. So that's where we are. I wouldn't normally talk to the lawyer without consulting the board first, which is why I made sure Ashley was clued in. But the attorney, I really didn't understand it, and the attorney really didn't understand what we were trying to do. So, any further comment or questions or concerns on that? Okay. That's it. So we asked the lawyer for Ben Plant to get this back to us by our August 4th meeting, so that if we could carve out 15 minutes to approve it, we could do it then and then schedule a public hearing.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Then the last thing is, well, the last two things on the agenda is, one is I'd like to try, I think I've talked to some of you about it, I'd like to try something different in the review process, which is to rotate through board members determining whether an application is substantially complete. The board still has to have consensus or vote on that, so it doesn't mean it's just a total delegation, but I think it will first help to understand the ordinance.
Yeah, I did that last year.
And I think, it also, we'll have a variety of us looking at that and, not just be focused on me or one other person. So the way I'm proposing it would work is when we have something new, like, I don't know, a hotel. We have a hotel, we have an ice cream shop, and we have a grocery store.
Gotcha.
Three new items, or subdivision. It would just rotate. So, I would do the first item, you would do the second item, you would do the third item. That's all in one meeting, okay? You wouldn't do all the items.
Right.
And then at the next meeting, there's 2 more new items. Rolf would do one, and Maggie would do one. Then the next meeting, there's 2 more items, and Jessica and Kathy would do one, and we would just rotate it. I will keep track of that with Laura Lee. I'm also happy to sit down with anybody if you need some help in training on at least how I look to see whether something's complete or not. And remember, there's always context in these things. If it's a very small project and some of the things don't make sense, you may say it's complete. If it's a big project, it may be that it's important to have every little item there. So are people good with that?
So we'd essentially be assigned.
Yeah, you'd have a.
To do the thorough review.
Right,
make sure that
right.
application's
And the
complete.
board would have to agree and have consensus on it. Don't worry, nobody will attack anybody. But that's what I thought we'd start doing starting in August.
The other piece of that was, at the beginning of the meeting, we would
Correct.
we would sit and say, you reviewed the hotel, you reviewed the store, you reviewed the ice cream stand. Are the applications complete? And if they're not, we're going to be able to tell the applicant right then at the beginning of the meeting,
Right,
they're not complete, they don't have to hang around.
right, right.
They have to get it fixed.
Yep, I got to remember to add that to the next agenda, so let me write myself a note.
And that will be part of the agenda, like completeness review of all new
Right,
projects.
or what
like,
it,
for
yeah, I'll
second
figure a way to
after.
word it. It might
Yeah.
be complete, it might be incomplete application, might be, we only need to speak to what's incomplete.
Yeah.
But, because that's the people you want to,
And there's no way to do that even before the meeting, so they don't have to show up?
the board has to, so this
Has
is
to
what.
determine that, right, yeah, we
Board,
talked about
this
that.
is
I forgot, yeah.
this is what we've done in the past. When if in the one situation, and again, this can be part of a discussion or training, in the one situation where it's clear notices weren't properly sent, that's a situation in which certainly I have, if it was me that saw it as chair, I have called Laura Lee, who has talked to the applicant, and it's the applicant needs to make that
Yeah.
choice. The applicant decides whether they want to withdraw it off the agenda for that date or not. And most of the time, they withdraw it. And there are times when Laura Lee and Brenda have also found that and have notified the applicant, and the same things happened. That's as far as I recommend we go without, because it has to happen in public with the board. So I think that's fine. We'll figure out a way to do that. And then remember, Brenda is also now got a checklist of not every item, but some key items. And if things are missing, she's noting it. So that, I think that's also helpful. So we good on all that? Thanks, Rolf, for reminding me about the other change. I'd forgotten. Last, Paul Skinner has sent in the changes that he spoke to at the last meeting, or the proposals. So we'll schedule those into the August 18th meeting. I didn't think we'd have time to really discuss them, but I wanted the board to have them so that you can look at them well in advance. So that's it, unless somebody else has something.
Just who is Paul Skinner?
Oh, so I don't remember if you were
I
at the
wasn't at that
last
meeting,
meeting.
yeah.
Paul Skinner, he's a fellow that owns quite a bit of property, I think, in West Bridgton, and he's come to several meetings. You've probably seen him come to one meeting or two. He's one of the things he'd like to see different is the land not suitable for development for the spec about the 25% slope.
Yeah, no, I read through the.
Yeah, so he's come and spoke about
He's a
that
landowner
several.
in
So he's a citizen that owns property that's concerned about the use of his property, but he also threw other ideas in there.
I think he's a non-resident of Bridgton.
Yeah, he
He's a
lives
landowner.
somewhere, he's a
Landowner,
non-resident,
but a
he's a
non-resident.
landowner.
And
Good.
it doesn't really matter.
Good clarification.
Maybe it
But he's been coming to meetings on and off for the last year or so. So you'll probably recognize him when you see him. So, anything else? I move to adjourn, moved by Mr. Madsen. Surely there's a second, Maggie.
Second. Oh, I got
Seconded by
it.
Maggie. All in favor,
Very
please raise your hand.